Manu Ginobili finished his Hall of Fame career with impressive numbers, but stats can't properly define his greatness. He'll be remembered as the eccentric hooper with magical moves who helped bring the Euro step to the NBA, even though he's Argentinian. A pivotal part of the San Antonio Spurs' Big Three. Most notoriously, we know Manu as arguably the greatest sixth man in NBA history. But before we knew Manu as just Manu, he was Manu Ginobili, a mostly unknown international prospect with a long shot of succeeding in the NBA, a hooper who didn't appear fit for the league, a guy who was in Popovich's eyes uncoachable. Let's meet these versions of Manu Ginobili in the Prism. It ain't the best look for a draftee when Tim Duncan, the franchise star on a championship team, has no clue who you are. Not for lack of effort, just genuine confusion about your existence. Those were Timmy's thoughts when the Spurs selected Manu Ginobili with the second-to-last pick in the 1999 draft. The Argentinian shooting guard was so far removed from the NBA's radar that basketball executive Rod Thorne butchered the pronunciation of his name while announcing the San Antonio selection. I'd imagine hearing my name mispronounced during such a momentous moment would feel like a gut punch, but it didn't bother Ginobili. It's kinda hard to be mad when you're entirely oblivious to the event even taking place. During an Argentinian national team tournament, Ginobili's coach had to wake him up and tell him the news. To which Ginobili responded, "Nah, that can't be right." As a youngin' hooping for a squad in Italy's second division, Ginobili was shocked. ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports, gave San Antonio a D for their draft grade, mainly because they didn't travel said world to scout Ginobili. Neither Timmy, ESPN, nor Ginobili thought he was ready for the league. You can add Spurs assistant general manager R.C. Buford to that list as well. After winning the ship in 1999, San Antonio wanted to keep their roster intact without spending more bread, aiming to pick a player in the draft who wouldn't make the team immediately. Buford desired international players he could stash overseas, and Ginobili was his guy. He actually first discovered Ginobili by accident, seeing him compete in the '97 World Tourney. Intrigued by his raw potential, Buford compared watching Ginobili play to a crazed horse just out there doing outlandish shit. After spending 3 successful seasons rising the ranks in the Italian league and adding hardware along the way, the Spurs brought Ginobili stateside in 2002. As a 25-year-old, Ginobili joined a team that already had a strong core in place, but despite being an accomplished international star, journalists still questioned how successful he could be. International players were typically stereotyped as either being too soft or not athletic enough to survive in the NBA. Buford was even doubtful of how Ginobili would turn out, and he was the ultimate decision maker that brought him to San Antonio. Ginobili's new teammates were skeptical as well. Just listen to Timmy describe his excitement about the team's new additions heading into the 2003 season.
I'm anxious to see what the guys we've added can do. Manu Ginobili, supposedly he's a great find. He's the best player in Europe, supposedly.
It's not the greatest sign of confidence when the reigning MVP doubles down on you, supposedly being the best international player. The entire Spurs squad had the same energy for Ginobili. Unconvinced that he would fit, the team tested Ginobili's toughness from the jump, purposely sending him to the floor with hard screens during training camp just to see his reaction. They rode him non-stop in practice, but Ginobili never budged, knowing he had to earn their respect. Which must have been a high bar to clear, considering Manu already lit up Team USA on American soil in the FIBA World Championship a month before the season. As a big left-handed guard, Manu's unconventional playing style threw off US defenders as he slithered his way through driving lanes, able to draw fouls, knock down outside shots early in the shot clock, and toss circus passes. Ginobili's unique skill set and acrobatic-like movement confused opponents, but he struggled early in his rookie season. He admitted the talent and athleticism in the NBA was vastly different. More than growing accustomed to the physicality of the league, Manu didn't fit in San Antonio. His erratic playing style that Buford initially gushed over didn't fly with head coach Greg Popovich. As a former Air Force major, Pop ran a tight ship that prided itself on order. The Spurs were a slow-paced team that focused on running their offense inside out while locking opponents down on the other end, which wasn't really Ginobili's steez. He jacked up threes early in the shot clock, nutmegged defenders, tossed passes the length of the floor, and gambled for steals on defense. All things that infuriated Pop. I mean, Timmy's nickname was the Big Fundamental, and his signature move was a bank shot. So watching Ginobili play an unhinged style of ball surely annoyed the shit out of Pop. His frustrations grew to a point where he confided in assistants that Ginobili wasn't coachable. Instead of telling Ginobili that straight to his face, coaches tossed him in the corner during practice, telling him to shoot the ball only if Duncan passed it to him. Ginobili wanted to take the world by storm his first year, and chilling in the corner barely got him past the Riverwalk in San Antonio. But Manu was just as hard-headed as his coach and constantly tested Pop come game time. On one instance during his rookie season, Pop grilled Ginobili during a film session for tossing a high-risk pass, only for Ginobili to taunt him by jokingly trying the same thing the very next game. Manu simply couldn't break hooping the way he'd always played, and after a while, his game started to take shape. Operating mostly off the bench, Manu began showing steady improvement and became a constant part of the team's rotation in the playoffs, where San Antonio went on to win the title his rookie season. While foreign players typically took time to shine in the league, journalists quickly changed their tone and applauded Manu for popping off in year one, comparing his attacking playstyle to an NFL defensive back. It's an odd comparison, but Manu's game wasn't similar to anyone else's in the sport. The press didn't bother matching him to another international player. After 1 year, Manu had already become a champion, gaining legendary status back home in Argentina. Yet, he struggled with his new identity of being a rotational guy. Manu knew it was wishful thinking to hit the NBA and be an immediate star, but after being the top dog internationally, getting knocked down to the bench hurt him a little bit. There is a reality in which we could have known Manu as a starter, for a completely different team at that. After starting nearly half the season his second year, Pop sent Manu back to the bench for unnecessarily trying to make splashy plays every time he hit the court. What Pop saw as inconsistent play, others saw as a potential franchise-altering star. Following the end of the 2004 campaign, Manu entered the offseason as a restricted free agent, and the Utah Jazz were prepared to break the bank. They rolled out the red carpet, pitching Manu the idea of Utah returning to championship contention with him as the focal point. Manu liked the sound of that. He had hoped to stay in San Antonio, but understood the business of the game. The Spurs felt the same. Their top priority for the summer revolved around retaining Manu, and the two eventually agreed on a long-term deal. The timing couldn't have been better for San Antonio. Entering the 2004-05 season, Manu came fresh off dropping buckets for his home country in the 2004 Olympics as Argentina won gold. The dude was primed to take that next leap to NBA stardom, and the Spurs finally gave him the green light. Manu worked his way back to the starting rotation, and look at that. He earned his first All-Star appearance. Oh yeah, the Spurs also went on to win the championship that season. As a starter for a title-winning team, Manu's star status could only ascend. You'd have to be a fool to put a player of his caliber on the bench. Oh shit, wait a second. I'm getting word that's exactly what the Spurs did. The team failed to repeat as champions the following year, and by the middle of the 06-07 season, it became clear to the entire organization that Manu would be better used as a reserve. There is only one ball, and the team found it difficult for Manu, Timmy, and Tony Parker to all get their touches when they shared the court. Plus, when they weren't on the floor, the offense fell apart. The coaching staff had slid Manu back into the six-man spot and enjoyed his spark off the bench. Manu running the show with the second unit allowed him to play freely without interference and kept him from wearing down, which was a legit concern. Manu didn't have an off switch and played with a non-stop competitive drive no matter the circumstance. Coaches seriously worried his body would break down if he kept that pace in his minutes as a starter. The team considered approaching Parker about hitting the bench, but thought asking Manu had less potential of rocking the boat, which seems absurd. Asking a recent All-Star in the prime of his career to ride the pine wasn't easy, and the guy that barked for him to change his playing style had to be the messenger. During the middle of the season, Pop pulled Manu to the side and essentially asked him, "Yo, you know that whole starter thing you always wanted to do and are currently thriving at? Well, we don't want you there anymore." Pop fully prepared to get shut down, but Manu agreed. He gave up his spot and found himself on the bench that season and mainly for the remainder of his career. It's a decision that, as we know, led to an immense amount of success, helping Manu cement himself as arguably the greatest six-man in NBA history. But it came with his sacrifices. It ain't like he wanted to be known as the reserve dude. Manu had always envisioned himself as the main guy, and he could have absolutely taken that route. The bag was out there for Manu to grab, and he easily had the opportunity to take on a larger role elsewhere that could have come with more glory. Instead, he put his ego to the side, knowing San Antonio had something special cooking, and chose a shot at rings over stardom, which again, certainly worked out for him. After defeating the Miami Heat in the 2014 finals, earning Manu his fourth NBA title, Pop and the rest of the Big Three reflected on how Manu essentially had to break Popovich down into finally trusting him.
At some point in that first year or 2 years or third year, whatever it might have been, I said, "Why do you do that? Why? What are you? He goes, "I'm Manu, this is what I do." And from that day on, we pretty much let him do what he does.
Simply responding, "I am Manu," to finally get Pop to back down is an iconic response, but it's the most accurate explanation of who Manu was as a player. No one else replicated the same type of magic he brought to the court. He's just Manu. As much as he and Pop battled early on, San Antonio needed him as much as he needed them. By sacrificing his starting role for the betterment of the franchise, Manu helped cement a team above everything ethos that forever altered the Spurs culture in the process. There is no guarantee the Spurs are who they are without him. The same can be said for Manu's career if they didn't move him to the bench, leaving another team to overexert him. It's crazy to think a once unknown foreign player who was seen as uncoachable could go on to have a Hall of Fame career. But that's what happens when you let Manu be Manu. Hello, thanks for watching Prism. The guy that went at Manu wasn't always respected his entire career, so check out how Pop rose to prominence. And of course, we have plenty of other cool stuff to check out. Peace.